Welcome back to another edition of the Fantasy Football Expo podcast series. Of course, I'm Bob Long here with the Fantasy Football Expo. And to my right is the one, the only Kasey Kasem.
Yeah.
What is happening, girl? Good to have you as always. I know it's been a rough day for you. We won't talk about that. We'll just move on to fantasy football. But thank you for being here. You toughed it through. And how's it going outside of your day?
It's good, actually. It's been going really well. Thanks for having me, Bob, first and foremost. This is the highlight of the week. And I know it's Monday, but this is going to be the highlight of the week.
Hopefully it gets better than this. But yes, this is your highlight. I'll take it. We'll take it. So for everybody out there, I mean, most people know who you are. You've been doing your Get Real podcast. We'll certainly get to that here in a little bit. But let's go way, way back when you started this fantasy football thing here where you draft players and all this coolness that goes with it. Tell us about how you got, I mean, in your Get Real podcast, you've interviewed me, like, how did you get started? So I'm interviewing you this time in the Bob Lung Get Real podcast series here. Excellent. Of number one. Tell us how you got started in the fantasy football world. Who pulled you in? What year was it? How long have you been doing this wonderful game that we play?
For sure. So 2011, let's go back. It's not too far from here, but it kind of is.
Yeah,
2011.
I mean, 13 years now.
Yeah. So 2011, my friend was just like, hey, I need somebody to join my fantasy football team or league. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. I watch football. I don't know what fantasy football is. How have I never heard of this? So I joined that league. It was redraft, just a 10-team league. And that's how I got started. Just kind of won that league. That's everybody's story, but
isn't it funny how everybody's first year, like, I won. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I did win the first year. They didn't invite me. They did not invite me back the second year.
Rude.
But I started my own league the second year. So it's all female league that I started with all my friends, and that's kind of been going and going and going. But that's the very start was just that guy.
But you still have that league that you started then the next year.
I do. So we still do it. We used to do live drafts all the time. I've got live draft boards behind me from all those events. But yeah, we're still together, and it's basically the same people. There's a few new ladies in the last few years, but for the most part, it's the same people.
Yeah, no, I have one of those as well that has been forever, and I think we still have about half of the original, but this will be my 40th year for it. So yeah, it's been a while. We started in 85, but anyway, that's cool. So you did that. Now you've got some leagues. You've been obviously playing in quite a few leagues now, but tell me how that love for fantasy football transitioned into your Get Real podcast, because this is the highlight of everybody's life when they are asked to be on your show. I've been one of those honored guests as well. Talk about where that came from, where you said, hey, it would be cool if we could find out what these people did, kind of like we're doing now, but in the past, how they got there, what drove them to that point. But tell us how your Get Real podcast series got all started.
I really wanted to do a podcast for a long time, and I tried to do just a regular fantasy football podcast with one of my friends, and it didn't really go the way that I wanted it to. I kind of wanted to have my own kind of hand on it without outside, factors. So I decided to start Get Real because back in the day, Matt Harmon used to put out Backyard Banter podcast, and I loved listening to the stories that he was getting from people that he knew in the industry. And I'm like, I'm getting started right now putting out content audio form, and I want to really figure out, like, how do people go about getting involved in the fantasy football space? How do they put out content? Everybody's story is different. Everybody's ways of going about things are different. And I really want to get to know the people behind the stories too, the people behind the fantasy football advice that we get. I wanted to actually know more about all these people that are in the space, because there's so many awesome people, and not everybody might be your cup of tea, but it's just so fun to get to know everybody and kind of just get to hear stories that you've never heard and just kind of get a personal feel with those people. Because if you're going to be listening to these people and taking advice and everything, you want to know the person. And you want to really feel like you're connected with that person. So I'm like, well, let me try putting out a podcast, kind of like a talk show-esque type podcast where I talk about people's lives. I talk about how they got started in the fantasy industry and just, tips, tricks, and things along that line. Those lines that can kind of help people that are trying to get involved in the industry, trying to get started, don't know how. So kind of just wanted to get all of that, and just it took off, and it's really exciting to do. I really love it. It's like one of my favorite things in the
Yeah,
world.
no, and you do an amazing job. How many episodes you up to now?
I have 99 episodes right now. Tomorrow, the 100th episode's
What?
going to drop. So
And
it's
it will be who? Who will be the honored guest at 100?
It's 100 is Luke Sawhook. So Luke
Oh,
Sawhook is going to be
okay.
100. Yeah. So I interviewed him.
Perfect. The Cowboys guy, he works
Yeah.
with Dallas.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Okay.
So, yeah, I got to pick his brain. That was pretty cool. So, yeah, now that I've been working from home and doing all that, I've had more time to interview people like during the day and stuff. So I crammed a bunch. So I've got a lot of really cool episodes coming up. So, yeah.
Awesome. No, that's fantastic. And I know you've interviewed at least one real celebrity in Tom Everett Scott. Anybody else? Talk about that one, because I probably you have in your podcast or somewhere you've talked about it. I know we've had brief discussions, but talk about how that all came about. And have you interviewed anybody else celebrity wise other than Tom?
It came about basically because of the Scott Fish Bowl, because we were in a chat together for the seventh spot. And so I just got the nerves up, I was like, I'm going to ask him if he wants to be on my podcast. Cause I kind of, that was kind of my was inviting him into that chat. And so I'm like, why not? He likes talking about fantasy football. And I actually had him come on the previous fantasy football podcast that I was trying to do. So I was like, I already knew that he was willing to talk. And I was like, well, would you like to talk more about like your fantasy football journey? Because it's not every day you hear about a celebrity playing fantasy football, right? And so it was really cool to be able to pick his brain and figure out, how he got into it and what he likes and what he doesn't like, and being a part of the Scott Fish Bowl and all of that. So he's the celebrity guy. I really haven't interviewed any quote unquote celebrities, but like Matthew Berry was one of my very first episodes that I recorded, which was scary, because one of your first and you're talking
one. Yeah, you went big.
Yeah, I swung really big at the beginning. I was like, you know what, what's the worst that can happen? They say no. Okay, they say no. You just move on to somebody else. But hopefully people like sharing their stories. So when I reach out, hopefully they think it's a cool idea, and he did. So yeah, if it wasn't for the Scott Fish Bowl, I probably would have never gotten connected with him at all. But now it's like the coolest thing ever.
And we're still every year begging him to come to the Fantasy Football Expo.
I know.
And every year he's like, yeah, I got something going on, but maybe someday he'll make it. So Tom, we're talking to you out there.
Talking to you, Tom. Come
looking
on
for
now.
you in 2023. So maybe someday we'll get Tom to come. But what we're excited to talk about today is not the Get Real podcast, which we love and has been around for quite a while, but we want to talk about your new venture. Tell us about the new venture and what you've been doing, and then we'll talk about this cool T-shirt that I have that may or may not have came from Kasey's new venture.
Yeah, the new venture is something that I've been talking with my wife about for a while. I wanted to quit my job. Okay. I wanted to quit my job at 13 years because I have this major passion for something, which is fantasy football, the community, people in it, and all of that. And I'm like, I'm 40 now. I got to, so took the jump in, but we've been talking about me putting out a fantasy football t-shirt line, something, maybe hats too in the future, because obviously I wear hats all the time, but yes, Bob is modeling one right there. And, it was one of those things where there are fantasy football shirts out there, but I wanted to just be able to put something out that kind of goes towards everybody. So there's something there for everybody. And I've had feedback from some of my friends that aren't the biggest fantasy football nerds, but they're like, can you get some shirts that aren't as fantasy football related? So there might be a few coming too, but the big, what we're hitting on here is fantasy football inspired t-shirts, because I don't know about you, but my closet is full of t-shirts. Like that's what I spend all my money on, right? It's t-shirts.
Right.
And so I'm like, we really need to if I wear something out that has something fantasy football related, you can tell the people who know, hey, you're wearing a shirt about like your fantasy league, or even with the Scott Fishbowl shirts, like you'll have people be like, oh wow, So I just wanted to do something like that, and I'm like, it's something that I never thought that I would dip my toes into, but once I got started, I was like, this is really dope, and I'm still working on figuring out what works best, but in the start of my venture, I think it's going really awesome. Got a lot of really good feedback from people, and I've already bought I bought some shirts, and I obviously haven't done laundry in a while. I'm wearing a white t-shirt, but yes, I do have some shirts. They're all pretty rad, and if there's something out there that you want to see on a shirt, and shoot me a DM and I'll try to hook you up with something.
Right. And that's what's cool is pretty much can make them on the fly if you got a cool idea or, cool thing. So, of course, I was honored when Kasey created this amazing seeing all my friends in Canton, Ohio. I'm touched by, so I had to buy one for me and my wife so we could wear it to Expo weekend in 2024. So thank you for doing that. But yeah, there's cool stuff, and there's things for all ages. There's this, this kid plays fantasy football, future commish. So if you got like, a little kid that you want to, kind of just have some fun and buy a kid shirt. There's, fantasy football goddess, fantasy football made me do it. There's just all kinds of fun stuff. Ask me about fantasy football, sleeper pick, just all kinds of great stuff that everybody thinks about and goes, oh no, that's a shirt that I
put that on my t-shirt.
People say that. The veto in fantasy football. That's a great one too. So all kinds of great shirts, Kasey. I love it. So talk about, is the goal is kind of like as the season go, will you create like a week to week, like, I lost this week due to, I lost my due to Justin Jefferson or something, like I did in last year. That could, like it's kind of like who am I thinking of? RotoWare, kind of create, but now they're of course, now providers for Major League Baseball, so they're they still do some fantasy, they still do some stuff for us for Kings Classic, but talk about your idea of where this is going.
Yeah. So I called it Sunday Dreamers Club. So that's the name of the brand because we all are dreaming about Sundays. We all love Sundays. Football is the best time of the season. It is. We all know that. And yeah, I do have plans right now. I wanted to get enough on there so that there's enough different shirts to kind of hit on everybody. There's women's t-shirts, kids t-shirts, like you said, unisex t-shirts, which I love to wear, but my wife was like, you need to have women's shirts. So I was like, okay. So I will do that. But yeah, like you said, when the fantasy season is happening, to be able to put something on a shirt that has something to do with your league or your team, or like I lost because of this, or I won because, I had this guy on my team, or whatever crazy stuff, stat corrections or whatever happened to make you win or lose. But yeah, as the season goes, and then like, all kinds of stuff. I've got shirts on there for like the actual draft. So yeah, I plan on putting more up there, and there's going to, I'm kind of feel the waters, test the waters, see what works, what doesn't work. But if I see a player or certain situations blowing up that week, obviously I'm going to take advantage of it. So
yeah, right. No, definitely. And that's what's fun about this is that, you can do that kind of stuff, or, maybe somebody, like you said, wants you to create one for their league, especially, that says, fantasy such and such league draft or champ or whatever. And yeah, you can get those shirts elsewhere, but why? Kasey does them for you.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we're excited about that. You're going to have a booth at the expo. I'm sure you're going to bring lots of shirts to sell. So talk about your expo experiences so far. You'll be your third or fourth?
This will be my fourth one.
Fourth in a row. That's what I thought.
Yep.
And if I remember right, your dad surprised you a couple years ago, showing up, which was awesome. So talk about your past expo experience before we talk about 2024's expo experience.
Yeah, for sure. The past expos were A+ primo stuff, like excellent. The first year I went, my sister ended up showing up. So she was there for that Friday, Saturday. And then, Sunday I did my own thing. But the following years after that, it just keeps getting better and better. I took my wife with me the second year. So she's gone with me the second and the third year. It's kind of just a family get together, or family reunion at the expo, But yeah, my dad did show up a few years back. I mean, he came last year as well, but the prior year he showed up and surprised me, and Bob knows, his wife knows, like my dad shows up and is trying to figure out where I am. And I was drafting at the time with draft night out at that time. And yeah, he showed up and just kind of surprised me. He doesn't really know anything about fantasy football. He doesn't play fantasy football, but he watches football. And he just thought it was the coolest thing ever to come to that event and then to see like how many people were there and that people knew who I was from the internet. It was, it's just kind of mind blowing.
Kasey is the ultimate celebrity at that point. Like, everybody knows you. Like, yeah, everybody knows.
It's kind of weird, because like I feel like this small little fish in this big pond, but then when like my dad or my wife come around, it's like, oh yeah, like this is.
Oh my gosh, you know everybody.
But I mean, the whole experience.
Awesome. Ooh, yeah, and I'm so happy he keeps coming back.
Yeah, I think he's going to come again this year, hopefully. So
cool. Yeah, so that and that's what's great about it is the whole thing was created for the community to come together, share, regardless of the size of your website or what you're doing or what you're about. The whole thing has been about sharing what we have with each other. I always kind of get the question, well, I've heard it's all about content creators and how many real fans do you have? And I go, they're all fans. We're all fans of each other.
All fans of each other.
I'm buying Kasey's
t-shirt. Thing ever to see.
Kasey's going to buy my consistency guide. I mean, we're all fans of each other. Do we compete in some sense? Maybe in certain areas, but when it comes right down to it, we're all there for the same reason. It's to learn more about our fantasy football teams, learn about the players, learn from the top experts that show up, the Bob Harrises, the Mike Clays, the Andy Barons, and, JJ Zachariasons, all those people. I mean, those are all our idols, right? Mm-hmm. That we look up to, like we all wish we could be, but it's just so cool to be there together. And Kasey, we're so glad that you'll be back again this year. So
I'm so excited.
Talk about 2024 Fantasy Football Expo, August 9th through the 11th, once again in beautiful palm tree laden Canton, Ohio, as you can see in the background. Talk about what you're going to do at your booth, and all the people that are coming with you to help sell some t-shirts and get everybody know all about you.
Yeah. So I am super excited about being able to have a booth at the expo this year. It's something I haven't been able to do before, but like, yay. And so, I'm super excited about it. Get to know people, get to have people come up and talk to me and all of that. That's going to be super dope. I'm bringing t-shirts. I've got a local printer around here that's going to help me out. So that's really awesome. I've been researching printers really hardcore because I want to make sure that I want to get this right, Yeah. And so, so I have somebody that I'm working with there. And then my wife's going to come help me out with the booth. I'm pretty sure she's probably going to be the stationary person. No, sorry, don't tell her that I said that. She has to stay put. But I've been talking to a few other ladies. I don't have anything set in stone, but I wanted to be able to help out people that I think deserve a little bit of spotlight. So if somebody comes over and helps me with my booth, then I'm going to allow them to also, promote their stuff. I'm not going to be like, because I'm asking them to help me out, right? If I'm walking around but that's just a few ladies. But there's so many people in this community that are awesome. And so I think that everybody, if you have a product or you have a website or you have a podcast or whatever, this is definitely the place to go. Obviously, it's for the fans. We're all fans and everything, but getting to know everybody and getting kind of to see their content. So I'm super excited about having my content there. We don't have everything all figured out yet, but my wife is such a great planner. Like I'm pretty sure she's going to get me to where I need to be. But excuse me, we're going to have, there will be plenty of shirts there. So it's really super awesome because you won't have to pay shipping and all those extra fees that they like to throw in,
walk out with it.
And you'll have your shirt and it'll be awesome. So we'll have plenty of those there. And so, just come prepared to get you a couple of fantasy football t-shirts. I'd be really happy if you'd stop by and at least say hi, but that's awesome.
Right. Yeah, everybody's going to stop by. Everybody. So make sure you have your Sharpies because you'll be signing a lot of autographs. You know that. But definitely come check that out at this year's expo. So before we wrap up, Kasey, tell everybody, where the shirts are, where to find it on the website.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's on Etsy, but tell everybody how to get to there. And your Twitters and all the things we need to do to follow and start buying a bunch of your t-shirts before we get to the expo. So
yeah, for sure.
There.
Yeah. Thank you again. You can find the t-shirts at sundaydreamersclub.com. It is on Etsy. That's just where I am at the moment because I'm starting out and, it's kind of quote unquote the easiest way to go when you're first starting. But yeah, so sundaydreamersclub.com. And then if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at the Kasey Kasem, K-A-C-E-Y is how you spell my name, Bob. No, I'm just kidding. No. And then and the Get Real podcast, Get Real with Kasey Kasem. That's my podcast that comes out on Tuesdays now. So hopefully it will continue to come out on Tuesdays. It did not come out last week because I had jury duty, but it will come out this week. And so you can find that on any podcast platform that you listen to. So there you go.
Awesome. Thank you again, Kasey, for being on. Everybody, for anybody who's listening for the first time, you don't know what the heck we're talking about, I apologize. But when I click this button, it will tell you everything you should follow at the fantasyfootballexpo.com to get your tickets. Yeah. You have friends, bring them all. Make a road trip out of it. Bring the family. They're going to have a water park open.
Bring the family. There you go.
Bring the family. So it's going to be a great time. August 9th through the 11th, Canton, Ohio. Check it all out. Come get some Kasey's t-shirts. And on behalf of Kasey Kasem, I'm Bob Long. Everybody take care. Peace out. God bless. We'll see you.